Hunker down and stay home. That seems to be the message from state and local officials throughout the tri-state area as the nor'easter continues to blanket the region in snow. Forecasters are warning that the winter storm could bring 12 to 18 inches of snowfall and wind gusts as high as 50 miles per hour to New York City and the surrounding area. So CBS News' Jeff Berardelli has the latest for us. Jeff, you are in the middle of it right now. I am in Pennsylvania. It seemed like it blew through yesterday and then there was a calm, but I guess that's the calm in the middle of what is the storm?
That's exactly right, and it really depends upon exactly where you are. But yeah, the worst of it's now moving into New York City. It's going to come fast and furious. Now, I like the snow. I'm a bit of a kid in a candy store. I live in Manhattan, and it's beautiful here in Central Park, as you can see. So it's okay here, but you know, this is a crippling snowstorm for the Northeast. As you can see, it's coming down right now 1 to 2 inches an hour. So if it continues like this, and it may, for the majority of the day, as we head through the morning into the mid-afternoon, we're going to pick up another at least 8 inches on top of what we have, which is about 6 inches. And then incrementally, as we head through tonight and even tomorrow, we're still going to see light snow on and off. So in total, 12 to 18 inches here in the city, but just north and west in northern New Jersey, it's going to be one of the biggest storms we've seen in many years, probably at least the biggest storm since 2016, and for some folks it will be more than what we had in 2016. So what does that mean? Northwest New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, the lower Hudson Valley sees at least 18 to 24 inches of snow, with some isolated areas and elevations seeing more than 2 feet of snow. Now, this storm is going to progress kind of its way northward as we head through the day. So we're going to start to see the heavy snow break out in places like Boston and the Berkshires. And eventually that will head up into New Hampshire and Vermont as well. And along the immediate coast, it could even mix with a little bit of sleet and maybe a little bit of rain as well. One of the biggest issues we're going to have here, as you mentioned, Anne-Marie, really gusty winds. Along the coast, 45, 50, 55 miles an hour. But Cape Cod could see wind gusts to 70 miles an hour, maybe even close to hurricane force. So a prolonged fetch. This storm is very slow moving. It's stuck for 36, 48 hours. The whole time, we have an east wind off the ocean. It's bringing in a conveyor belt of moisture, so it's moistening up the atmosphere, making for really heavy snowfall totals, but also it's pounding the water against the coastline. That means 2 to 3 feet of coastal flooding, eastern Long Island, Cape Cod. That means inundation, unfortunately, for some coastal homes. And because it's so windy, we're going to see scattered power outages. So there are a lot of hazards that we're dealing with, Anne-Marie, with this system, and it's really not going to be done until later on Tuesday. But the worst of it here in New York City is going to be today through this evening.
Is yuck a meteorological term? It just sounds like a lot of yuck. It's very pretty where you are right now, but when you talk about the winds, you know, I don't know if we're looking at a possibility of ice, but can you give us a greater sense? You mentioned possibly power outages. What's the worst that we could be seeing?
Well, you know, it's interesting. So the power outages are going to be on Long Island and Cape Cod, that area, and southeast New England, and maybe as far west as New York. But the heaviest snow is going to be from New York west, so they're not necessarily going to coincide the whole time, because we are going to see a little bit of warmer air moving along the coast. But yeah, we could see tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people without power. I mean, this is a prolonged event. Again, we're going to see those gusts to 70 miles an hour and seas 10 to 15 feet offshore just pounding against the coastline. You get a prolonged easterly wind, and it just kind of pushes that water up on high tide cycles. So during high tide cycles, they're calling for, when I say they, the National Weather Service, you know, major or at least moderate coastal flooding. So this is not your run-of-the-mill nor'easter. You know, this storm is stuck. And by the way, Anne-Marie, if you want to talk about it, we can. There is a climate change component here, and there's also something called a sudden stratospheric warming. So do you want to talk about that? Because we have a graphic to show on this sudden stratospheric warming. It's a really amazing phenomena. Okay, all right. I'm glad you gave me the green light. That's all I needed to hear. So here's what happens. It's pretty amazing. It's a natural occurrence, but about 2 to 3 weeks ago across the Arctic, it warmed up 100 degrees in a few days, about 50 to 100,000 feet above the North Pole. When that happens, it causes an imbalance, a disruption in the Arctic. Also, climate change has caused the Arctic areas to warm at 3 times the pace of the rest of the globe. So because of that, everything is discombobulated. It throws the steering currents off kilter. And when you do that, you get a very convoluted, wavy jet stream with all kinds of blocking, like a traffic jam in the atmosphere. So storms get stuck. So what happened? Well, in California, this same storm a couple days ago got stuck over California for 2 to 3 days, produced 15 inches of rain, over 100 inches of snow. Then all of a sudden, the storm takes off and flies across the country, only to stop short again right here in New York City and get stuck in another blocking scenario, courtesy of a sudden stratospheric warming and climate change causing the storm to stop. It's kind of a combination of both. Then add to that the atmospheric river in California and this conveyor belt of moisture from the Atlantic. You know, it's a warmer atmosphere. A warmer atmosphere is like a bigger sponge. It holds more moisture and it wrings out more of that moisture in the form of heavier snow and rain. So 6 of the top 10 snowfalls in New York City have all occurred since 2000 despite a warming climate. That's because it's just cold enough to snow, but there's more moisture in the atmosphere for blockbuster snowstorms. Was that too nerdy and geeky for you?
No, and that actually helps me to understand, a lot more. Often when you get heavy snow, it feels like the temperature actually isn't as cold as it, might have been like days before when there was no snow. And so it really helps to kind of help me understand how this all fits into the bigger picture. It's all interconnected. Jeff, thank you so much.
My pleasure.